So, this is a video on the A56 pop-up cycle lane. This is Dane Road in Sale. The cycleway briefly extended down through Sale towards Aldringham, but was quickly removed after only 2 or 3 days due to complaints about congestion from motorists. The council is currently looking at alternative routes, although we're not too sure what that means yet. But let's continue. As you can see, the lane is cone segregated with special cones with cycle route printed on them, and as well as keep right bollards. For bus stops and side roads, the cones go away, and when you have those combined, it can lead to quite a large unprotected section like this. This is the M60 slip road, so a lot of cars turning left here at very high speed, so you have to shoulder check and be very careful to indicate right the whole time, but luckily no conflicts here at this time. Unfortunately, the cycle route ends here for a brief period for cars to be able to queue into the recycling centre. For me and the man ahead, it's quite easy to hold primary position here, but less confident people would be forced into the cycle lane. There isn't really an optimal way to do this gyratory. You can either stay in the left lane, which then leads off to the left and you've got to move right quickly, or you can get into the right lane and drivers don't expect you to be there, like this one. At some of the larger junctions there are left slip lanes, so you've got to be careful when you're going straight on that drivers aren't cutting across. On the right here you can see another pop-up lane extending towards Chiltern, although there is no pop-up provision other than riding in the carriageway to turn right here. Unfortunately, there are a fair few slip roads off the dual carriageway, and when that happens there has to be a sort of split lane here, which can leave you feeling quite exposed. For the most part, parking isn't a problem as there's usually off-road provision. As you can see here, this van driver has other ideas, although as he's loading on zigzag lines he's not too bothered about the law anyway. This here is White City Roundabout, which is a horrible junction. It has a similar issue to the slip road before, where there's a large flow of left-turning motors. I've got my arm sticking out right the whole time here, but some motorists obviously aren't too bothered about that, so that's one of the downsides. Now we're joining the Bridgewater Expressway, which is a dual carriageway that's the quickest route between Trafford and Manchester. Previously it's pretty much inaccessible to anyone walking or cycling. As you can see, it's a 40mph dual carriageway with no provision. But now, excellent, as you can see, you can easily get across it, walking or cycling, and there are plans, and indeed a temporary traffic order, to reduce this to 30 mph. So this junction coming up marks the Trafford to Manchester border, and you'll see when the off-carriageway cycle lanes go from red to green, that is the official border, and the pop-up lane actually ends there. Extinction Rebellion did install a very competent and useful pop-up cycle lane from the Trafford border to the Manchester roundabout that you'll see in a minute, which bridged the sort of 300-yard gap and allowed people to continue the journey in safety, whereas now, as you can see, I'm having to ride in the road and subject myself to some very nasty driving. And now finally you'll see that I've made it into the protected cycleway that goes towards the Deansgate Interchange roundabout, and from there are safe crossings towards the city centre and also towards the newly completed Chiltern Cycleway, including one with cycle priority, as you'll see in a minute. and from there I can go on protected tracks down into Hume. It's a shame because the route is truly excellent and way better than what was there before. There are some small issues, but the biggest issue is the 300-metre gap between Trafford and Manchester, because Manchester refused to put in any sort of pop-up provision. So if they fix that, it would be excellent.